I'm your host, Matt Hodkinson, and today on the Consultancy Edge, I'm joined by John Wilson of Honest Video and Explainer. We dig into the real edge video gives consultancies, founder led thought leadership, shortening sales cycles, and building trust at scale. John shows how to start fast with just iPhone and Zoom, the kit basics that actually matter, and when to level up with an agency. We unpack perfection versus progress, repurposing webinars, and why consistency beats cinematic polish. Stick around for the usual snog, marry, avoid, one quick win, one long-term keeper, and one habit to ditch today. Let's dive right in with John Wilson. John Wilson, welcome to the Consultancy Edge. How are you today, sir?
All good, Matt. Nice to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. Listen, I want to kick off by diving into your backstory. How did you come to build what is now two video businesses, and what drew you to the world of storytelling through video?
So it all started, I guess, like a lot of people. I went to university. I studied a filmmaking degree, and then I guess, like a lot of people, at sort of 21 years old, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in the industry. I wasn't particularly good with a camera. I wasn't a particularly good editor. I didn't, despite doing a filmmaking degree, I didn't really know what path I wanted to take in the industry. And out of the gate of graduating university, we got offered, or our university got offered some work with the NHS, just to do a series of corporate videos. It was about £10,000 budget, which 15 years ago, as a 21-year-old graduate, was an enormous sum of money. I ended up pitching for that piece of work with a friend that I studied with, won that piece of work, delivered that piece of work, and had to set up a company basically for the NHS to send a PO somewhere. And there was no kind of intention to start a production company, but that was step one in the journey. We delivered that piece of work, and we ended up winning a kind of regular videography contract with the NHS, which turned into monthly video of an event series. We got recommended to a couple of other NHS sites, and it really, 20 years later, the honest truth is it kind of just gathered steam and momentum and sort of snowballed from there. Once we had the NHS as a client, it was quite easy for us to win other corporate companies. We were quite young, naive, had no issue picking up the phone, knocking on doors. We were extremely competitive on price because we were pretty much making it up as we go along. But we made some good inroads, and we got, over time, we ended up working with people like Thomson Reuters, Henley Business School, and Asahi. Drifted away from my co-founder and wanted to go in different directions. Ended up then merging that kind of client base with another solo founder at an agency. Had again 3 years together and continued the journey, but ultimately after that 3 years of working with a co-founder, with a business partner, I kind of realized that I was happier doing stuff on my own. So I took what was probably about sort of 10, 15 years worth of clients and contacts by this point, and left and started my own thing, and started Honest, and eventually a couple of years later co-founded Explainer as well.
Yeah, I do want to dive into that. We're going to focus a lot today on obviously the edge. You know, what tips have you got for consultancies? How can they be using video better in their businesses? But I do want to dive into your journey a little bit deeper, because you've separated those two businesses. You've got Honest that does the production kind of side of things, works with those kinds of clients. Explainer, which has no vowels in it, by the way, if anybody's looking for it. Explainer is very, very specific about what you do. Maybe we could start there. When it comes to a tip, what do explainer videos do for businesses that you work with?
Yeah, so I think Explainer kind of comes from a sort of long history of creating Explainer videos, and what we sort of found was that there was a repeatable format there. So in terms of setting it up as a business, we felt that there was a chance there to do something productized and something that was go to market, was a slightly sort of lower price point as well. In terms of what the results and what we saw with Explainer videos and what we've seen over the years, I think the simple one is you put an explainer video on your website, you put it on the homepage or at any point, any kind of point in a customer's journey on a website, and people stay on that website for much longer. Probably heard the term sticky before. Video makes websites sticky. So an explainer video front and center of your brand, whether it's any type of brand, will put people on your website for a longer period of time. So people might go onto your website, click 15 seconds later, click off, put an explainer video on there. They might stay on your website for 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah. And I know it's not just about websites, is it? I mean, social profiles and everywhere else you can share these videos. We're going to talk about LinkedIn today. I know that's big on consultancies' agendas. Um, so when we're looking at those sorts of explainer videos as well, I recognize it's an opportunity to really communicate to people what your value proposition is as a business. And I know from experience, consultancies can find that very difficult. You know, if you ask 10 different people in one consultancy, what is it that you do? You can get 10 different answers. So, John, how have you found yourself coaching businesses on being able to tell that story in a more compelling, easy to understand, clear way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely on the explainer video side, we kind of have everything in a very structured approach. So particularly when creating an explainer video, we try to break the value proposition down into 8 kind of key points. And what those kind of key points are very short bursts of a hook, a chapter on identifying who your audience is, and a section on identifying what the problem that is the industry that they're in. Why are they the solution to that problem? Why are they the provider or the consultant you should choose for? So all of these things kind of stack up. You might ask a question of a consultant and say, why are you the best in your industry? What's your value proposition? And they might struggle to answer. But actually, if you break it down into sort of bite-sized chunks, they've got all the information there. You know, they know why. This is something that we always come back to. Businesses are founded on a belief, ultimately, that you believe that you are the best at something, or you believe that you have solved a problem that's out there and exists in the real world. And our job is to extract that, whether that's through simple form captures or through interviewing and trying to kind of coax that story and that narrative out of a founder or a consultant or a larger organization. There's various different tools that we use, but yeah, ultimately it's about trying to kind of get in and get under the skin of a company and finding out what it is that makes them different.
When you look at businesses, and especially consultancies today, they're often driven by that intellectual expertise that they have. Where do you think most are missing opportunities to use video effectively?
Well, I think it starts with the founder, right? The founder is the person who has started the business, the person who everyone within that business is looking to. So I think first port of call, if a consultancy is not using videos, is to look at the founder and see what are they, how are they building their own authority within the industry? Are they posting on social? Are they posting on LinkedIn? Are they doing public speaking engagements? Are they putting out content like this in this format when they're interviewing people within their industry? And kind of looking at that as a first port of call and a first step for video is, let's use the founder and let's try and build their authority within the industry so that people are seeing them as the go-to person within that industry, whether that's a consultant, whether that's an agency founder, whether that's a more service-based business.
So I do want to sort of dive into that a little, because the founders typically, again, in my experience, they get busy. And the whole leadership team, in fact, pretty much everybody in a consultancy is busy doing something most of the day, and video won't be the top of their priority list in promoting themselves. How how can they make better use of their time? Is there a bit of pressure sometimes to take your time with video? Can it be as simple as just firing up your iPhone, getting your thoughts out there? And we will eventually talk about the whole sort of value production side of things. But first off, that time element, how can people use that better?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's for us, I think what we are kind of big advocates for is building a system, not sort of thinking about video as a one-off project. If you kind of think, oh, you have on your to-do list, make a video about explainer videos this week, the chances are that one video will eventually drop down the pecking order, and I might make that piece of video content, I might not. Whereas if I have a batch of content to record, and I can do that in a way where I can shoot a bunch of content and then I can edit that, and then that can be delivered over the course of a quarter. Actually, by building that system into your kind of regular routine and into your diary, it is how we like to think about video. So not just about one big scary one-off production, but also trying to have a system in place where you have kind of regular ideation in terms of content ideas coming to you and generated, and then a regular system for creating content. And it can literally be as simple as taking one of these things out or and recording the content. And that's the best place to get started.
Wonderful. And I mean, I think I know the answer to this question, or one element of it at least. But in terms of the power of video, why is it such a powerful medium? I know that in the world of consultancy, it's an element of try before you buy. You get to experience somebody's expertise before you dive in and get into a commercial relationship. But how do you see the big sort of the benefits? What should consultants be expecting when it comes to a method to build authority, trust, visibility? What are the benefits?
Yeah, so I think, you've literally hit the nail on the head there. I think, we are in an economy, especially in consultancy, where people buy from people and they build trust. I think historically, pre kind of video being such a powerful tool on platforms, we did that in person, and in person absolutely plays a role like today in terms of getting out, having face-to-face time with clients. But video is a way of building that trust online, and is a way of building that reputation online. It's the closest thing there is to having a conversation, having a dialogue on a video call, or having a video call face to face without actually having to do one. And video is a great way of obviously meeting more people, or more people seeing your content. It's out there 24/7. You're able to kind of, people are able to kind of see your content. You're able to build your authority online and build that trust, maybe even before you've had a conversation with somebody. Somebody might be looking at your video content. They might be lurking in the background. They might be a follower, or it might be somebody within it. Then they might kind of start to engage with you. But ultimately, like with video, you can start to build that trust. You can start to build that visibility, and you can start to build that authority, and you can position yourself as a consultant, as a thought leader, and ultimately have, once you have that kind of cadence and consistency in place, the end goal is for you to be the thought leader in that area, and people be coming to you. You're not relying on outbound. You're actually building your kind of own marketing funnel by having your content out there. It's succeeding, and people kind of seeing you as that like authoritative figure within the industry. And consultancies, there'll be a lot of consultants doing this. There'll be a lot of consultants doing video. So the chances are, if you're kind of watching this and you're posting on LinkedIn, but you're just doing statics, or you're just posting graphics, or you're posting kind of random GIFs, or you're posting kind of AI generated images, you're already behind the curve, because there will be people in your industry producing regular, consistent, high quality thought leadership. There will be people who are in your industry running webinars. There will be people in your industry running successful podcasts. So if you're not doing this founder-led content, you're probably already behind the curve.
This might be a bit of a curveball, John, but because I know the vast majority of your work is sort of pre-record, but when it comes to live, I know a lot of our listeners will be doing webinars for their business. That's a great way to demonstrate expertise, of course. We've got the ability to live stream on LinkedIn and other platforms now as well. What are some of the considerations, especially with webinars, I guess? How can we extend the life of a webinar beyond that live experience? How could we best use a recorded webinar from the past, for example? What are some of the considerations there?
Yeah, so I think trying to think of it as multi-platform, but being considered with that. I think there is a tendency with video, or with social in general, to sort of say, I've got an asset, I'm going to chop it up and I'm going to stick it everywhere. And then you're spreading your bets, right? Like it's very easy for us to say, this podcast we're doing now, it's going to go on Spotify, it's going to go on Apple, we're going to stick it on YouTube, we're going to stick it on LinkedIn, we're going to stick it on X, we're going to do shorts with it, we're going to do some Instagram content with it, and we're going to blast it on 10 different channels, and we're going to get 10 hits on all of them, and we're never actually going to build an audience. I think yeah, one thing to do is you absolutely can do that to get mileage out of content, but I think just taking a step back and making sure that you're doing it on the right platforms, and it's not just isolated posting is a really key thing to do. Make sure you are posting your content on the right platforms, and you are building those platforms alongside just blasting it kind of everywhere. But in terms of getting that asset out there, and squeezing the asset and sweating the asset as much as possible, yeah, absolutely. Like, you can have a live recording. That live recording can be posted on, obviously, the like Spotify, Apple podcasting software. It can be used on YouTube. You can break that down into shorts and then use those as bite-sized clips on YouTube. You can obviously then take the recording and produce bite-sized pieces of content for LinkedIn and yeah, any other sort of social platforms that you're using as well, including posting it on the website. So you really can take a recording like this and get multiple touch points out of it. The video, the written, you can easily transcribe the recording, turn it into written content for a blog post as well. But I think fundamentally making sure it's just not platforms and posting it for the sake of it. You make sure it's part of a kind of wider marketing strategy. And then with that kind of strategy in mind, in terms of breaking it down into little bite-sized pieces, there are a lot more kind of AI tools at your disposal now, in terms of this recording might be an hour in total, something like that. You might cut it down to 20 minutes where I'm waffling over points, which you might do, or I might be doing now. But going back into that archive and going back into that recording and trying to find, if you've ever done that manually, those little gold nuggets of 15 seconds here, 20 seconds there, that is a time consuming process. There are tools now available where the AI tools can go in, analyze the transcript, and then make that process of cutting down the video much easier. So definitely, this is a medium where you can sweat the asset a lot.
Yeah, great. And you touched on there the platforms, and I think a lot of our listeners might be thinking, well, yeah, that's all very well. We haven't really got an audience. They won't have large numbers of subscribers on YouTube. They won't have a vast number of followers on LinkedIn. And then there's the whole kind of, challenge around, do we do company page? Do we do personal profile? The answer is personal profile, by the way. But it's what about that optimization, I guess, John, because optimizing for YouTube in itself is a bit of an art, isn't it? What are some of the considerations that people should be having when it comes to distributing their video and ensuring it's hitting as many eyeballs as possible?
Yeah, sure. So I think start with looking at where you are in terms of your following. How many followers does the founder have? How many followers does the senior leadership team have? What does our company page look like? What do our socials look like? If you're starting from scratch, which I guess a lot of people might be if they're posting on YouTube or wanted to post on Instagram, as I kind of touched on before, I would start small. So I would find out where the audience is, find out where you have an audience, if there is one, go with that to start with. Then beyond that, try and layer it, try and do it one at a time. So, if LinkedIn and YouTube are your obvious two channels, for example, don't spread yourself too thin. Start trying to grow an Instagram channel, start trying to go a TikTok channel, because you really need a strategy for each of them. There are some areas where there are some overlap, but I think certainly trying to find out where you have an audience and then building off that. And if you are trying to grow an audience, sticking with one platform to start with, and then growing it and sticking kind of all your resource into that platform, trying to grow that faster before moving on to the next, and making sure that you are posting specific content for that platform, that you're not necessarily create what's going to work on TikTok. If you are I don't know, a consultant putting out tax tips for business owners, that might work quite nicely, speaking to the individual on something like TikTok, but you put that on LinkedIn may not work as well when you're speaking to a completely different demographic. So yeah, knowing where your audience is and putting your your best foot forward with that platform is a good starting point, and then not trying to spread yourself too thin beyond that.
That's nice. Yeah, I like that approach. Um, I want to talk as well because I know that your specific area of expertise is around thought leadership, getting that down into video and promoting the leadership in that role as well. But I do want to talk about the other use cases for video that go a little bit further into the sales journey, for example. I know that video can help shorten sales cycles and get people to take action. I'll think of some examples, video case studies, for example, video FAQs when it comes to decision time, that kind of thing. Do you see any great use cases beyond that for, creating more commercial sort of gain and potential within a business?
Yeah, so we have a very sort of basic framework, which or a system, I guess, in place when we make videos is, where does the piece of content sit within a marketing funnel? Really simple, just use, an awareness to retention marketing funnel to figure out where the piece of video content fits within that journey. So a top of funnel video about us, brand video about consultancy looks very different to something further down that funnel in terms of its mid funnel. So it might be in the consideration phase. So you might be making 2 to 3 minute case studies within that video. You might be making customer testimonials within that phase. You might be making explainer videos within that phase. And then kind of further down that funnel, is your kind of conversion content, which is kind of, shorter, more consistent bursts of content that you produce. So yeah, there is a whole kind of spectrum of videos that you can make within a marketing funnel, depending on the journey. You can't do them all, and one video can't do everything. But just being kind of self-aware of what you want to achieve from the video in terms of what are the results we want to get from this video. But then we always kind of work backwards. So where does it sort of, yeah, as a starting point, where does it fit within our kind of customer's journey? At what point in our marketing funnel is somebody going to watch this video? And that then kind of informs the strategy and informs the creative.
And I mean, talking about those results then, from your experience, John, what kind of commercial impact can consultancies and other organizations see when they start using video consistently? And that, whether that's in terms of leads, whether it's conversions, whether it's even existing client engagement, because of course it doesn't stop at the sale. What are some of the commercial sort of needles that we can move with video?
Yeah. So again, it comes back to that kind of awareness to retention in terms of what type of video you're making to sort of lean on what your kind of KPIs and the results you're going to get from it. At that sort of top of funnel phase, you want eyeballs on the video. You want as many sort of people to see your video. So you're going to judge and you're going to look for results sort of very different to kind of something that's bottom funnel where you might be targeting clicks and you might be targeting inquiries or sign-ups to a form. You really can kind of use video like across the whole marketing funnel to do a whole host of things. I think so much people just in the past have always just sort of seen video as a kind of nice to have, as a kind of creative piece that doesn't necessarily kind of move the needle as much. But you're seeing kind of LinkedIn content, people sharing content, getting kind of 2 times, 5x, sometimes more engagement than static posts. We've already spoken about, increasing kind of users' time on a website, user generated content. If you're somebody that sells something online, you might be looking at the results like, okay, you might actually be looking to correlate sales directly to a video campaign. If you're a kind of e-commerce brand, for example, that's particularly relevant. You might literally be looking at meta ads and saying, okay, how many people have seen this ad and have clicked it and bought from it? So yeah, there's 1,000 use cases for video and 1,000 kind of different results. It's really, from our perspective, it's knowing what the end goal is and then working backwards. So knowing what you want to achieve, well, from the results, knowing who your audience is, all of that information should feed into kind of your creative and your approach in the video you make. So you should almost be able to tick off in terms of, the video has to be this length, has to be this format, has to feature this kind of creative style because we're making it for this platform with this specific goal in mind.
Yeah, reverse engineer the result that
Exactly
way.
that.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that approach. I've also noticed as well, John, this from my own personal experience when using video, is that the results are rarely immediate. They can be. I mean, if it really sort of piques somebody's interest in the moment, that could be a thing. But typically, you have that word consistency is going to feature in this interview a lot, I think. But how can people, I guess, be more consistent when it comes to video? Again, with all of the distractions, the other priorities in business, and I guess this is a resilience question, really. How can you encourage people to stay consistent with it when they don't get that immediate positive feedback and those needles aren't quite moving just yet?
Yes, I think it's important to sort of to recognize that you do need to work at it. I'd be lying to sort of if I would sort of stand here and sort of say you didn't need to work at it. There are some very real things like creative fatigue is a real thing. Sort of people seeing the same thing over and over again. It's better to kind of, from in our opinion, is to consistently produce and iterate rather than kind of overinvest in the perfect piece of content. So having a kind of a culture where video is first, I think is really important. So trying to have that kind of belief that if we work at it and we're consistent, we'll get the results. That generally starts with organizations that we work with, the CEOs or the C-suite team or the leadership support leadership videos, and then trying to kind of have a kind of a culture where video is made by that drip down effect that everybody within the organization is making videos, is talking, is interacting with the videos that people are posting, people are sharing the videos. In terms of the actual kind of production and not getting kind of fatigued with that, I think you either need to have a dedicated video team. It depends on who, what kind of level of business you are. There'll be kind of dedicated video teams within larger organizations. That might be a producer. That might be just somebody's role is a producer, and then their role is to kind of engage with us as an agency. You might have you might be a smaller kind of consultancy working with a videographer. You might be slightly larger and be able to work with an agency, but having that accountability in place and having that kind of regular sort of but that system where video isn't just something that we'll do and 6 months later we'll do again, because that's ultimately where you get the results is doing something and doing it for 3 to 6 months, an absolute minimum, and iterating the way we would sort of traditionally work is with thought leadership content or kind of like mid-funnel kind of content retainers, is to shoot once a quarter, deliver those assets, and then iterate on a kind of 3 monthly cycle.
I guess attribution is another thing, isn't it? It's not always possible to really tie back any wins that you are receiving right back to that content, that it's either influenced a decision to get in touch, to get into that sort of conversation with a business, or whether it just didn't feature at all. So do you have any tips for attribution, being able to kind of ensure that video is seen as at least being by correlation that is influencing decisions in that way, John?
I take my content as an example to answer that question. So I started posting and practicing what we preach in terms of posting video content probably about 18 months ago. Prior to that, I was only posting images. Prior to that, I wasn't sort of posting at all with any kind of consistency. And as soon as I started posting, and particularly posting video content, even beyond the people that were engaging with my posts, I knew that people within my network were watching it, because we did a kind of win back kind of series, a campaign where I started posting on LinkedIn and then just started reaching out to people that I had in my network, I'd worked with in the past, and I perhaps for various reasons hadn't spoken to them in 6, 12, in some instances 5 years. And probably 80% of them responded. And probably of that 80%, nearly all of them had sort of said to me, "Oh, I've seen you posting, seen your content, haven't I knew they hadn't engaged with it because I hadn't seen any engagement, but they were kind of there in the background and just being there and just showing up. You do have to be prepared to sort of fail a little bit and maybe not get those vanity metrics that you might want. You post a video, everybody wants that dopamine hit of likes, loves, comments. And it is a little bit soul destroying to sort of not see the results. But, you know, doing it over 6 months, doing it over 12 months, you are going to be getting those results. There has to be more going on in the background to make particularly thought leadership content work. Video is just one part of a kind of holistic marketing strategy that's going to involve you reaching out and DMing people or sending some outbound stuff or bringing some people into your world, into your network. You've got to think about video as a kind of nurturing phase within the marketing tool. It's not necessarily going to be kind of pouring the people into your funnel, but if you can get the people kind of coming into that funnel through outbound and through other means, then video will help to nurture those people. But again, you do have to do the work and engage with them in the conversation. They're not always necessarily going to reach out to you, even if you are the kind of authoritative thought leader within your industry.
I'm so glad you said that about engagement because I've encountered this so many times. I do put video out on LinkedIn and have done consistently for a little while. And when I have stayed consistent with it, I'll see people face to face at events and what have you. I'll speak to people on Zoom calls, and they'll make reference to the video content I'm putting out. Love that video you did the other day. That was a really good point you made. But you're absolutely right. They didn't like it. They didn't comment on it. They
No.
didn't share it to their network. And I think we do have to remind ourselves that they are vanity metrics. It's not the sanity. And actually, I mean, a tip related to that when it comes to LinkedIn, you will influence more profile views. Actually, that's a metric you can really sort of hang your hat on. Are you getting more people to come and check you out, to visit your profile, see what you're about, and get the message that way? And that will, of course, influence onward decisions about conversations and what have you. John, I want to move on to how we can get people using video. And many consultancy leaders, get stuck perhaps thinking the video requires a huge budget or a studio setup. And again, that sort of big production value sort of experience. But what's the easiest on-ramp, if you like, for a consultancy that's never done video before?
Yeah, so I think just on that point is it can be it can be a very expensive medium, and we'll get to that. But what we're doing right now, is the easiest point of entry, I feel like, for video today. We all have Zoom, Teams, Google Meet. We all probably have 60-70% of our diary on video, on calls. If you wanted to get started with video, you don't have to jump straight into engaging with a production company. You can engage with the production company, and they can also advise you that jumping straight into production isn't necessarily the thing to do. Start small, grow it from there. We've had conversations with clients where we've advised them not to do a shoot in the first instance if they're not wanting to jump straight into the video, or they don't perhaps have a budget to bring a crew in. If, for example, if you took a common request is want to do we've got this client, we've done this great bit of work, we want to do a video case study on it. We want to do a video, but we might not necessarily want to spend, let's just call it 5 to 10K on it. We might have less than 5K. What's the best thing we can do here? And actually, the best thing they could do is get on Zoom with the client, record the case study in an interview, have a conversation with the client, record it. If they don't have the tools in-house to engage with the production company or somebody to do the editing, or they don't have the tools in-house, maybe they have got the tools in-house, get that kind of first step done in terms of recording it on Zoom, putting it out in the world, and see what happens. It's a very, very low point to entry doing that. All of your customers will probably give you 30 minutes to jump on a Zoom, in which you can easily create a nice 60-second, 2-minute of content, cut it up in the ways we've done before. That's kind of like step one. And then if that works, maybe play with that format a little bit more, build your confidence as possibly the person doing the interviewing or appearing, or, build, we talked about building an audience earlier, try and just get a bit of kind of engagement with those videos. And then once you've done a few of them, you might look at that and say, actually, video is working for us as a medium now. Now we can go back to an agency and we can start to talk about getting, a video case study made professionally. And again, there you don't have to jump straight into the most expensive option. There are kind of crew sizes, small crew sizes, two people crew sizes, is a perfectly kind of adequate sort of setup to do camera, high quality audio, and get a really nice piece of content. We also talked a lot to our clients about getting mileage from a shoot day. For some, even our kind of biggest clients, a shoot day can be quite a large investment. We do a lot of work. Probably 75% of the work we do is with the marketing team. But when we're working with kind of smaller departments like internal comms or HR or recruitment, they might not have the budget to commission a big kind of crew, but they might only need an hour or two's worth of filming. So sometimes with what we do, there's a lot of wastage in terms of like the production day. And the same would go for a consultancy looking to do video. If they wanted us to come in and do one case study video for one customer at their offices, for example, we're probably only going to end up with that one bit of content from the day with some social cut downs. The same as when we work with the HR teams or the smaller teams, you're only going to end up with that one bit of content. But we're there, you have a production company for a full 10-hour day. So you need to use that 10-hour day to get as much mileage as possible. So if you had a central location where 4 or 5 clients could come to it, all of a sudden, you're then able, your output from that shoot day is 3, 4, 5 times as much because you're able to create 3 or 4 or 5 or however many case study videos from that video day. And then, okay, that edit there might look a bit simpler. And then you work your way up. Then the next kind of like all singing, all dancing is, okay, we've got this big client. It's our flagship client. Okay, we want to go to them, shoot them in their environment, in their offices, get some nice footage. But there's stepping stones to that, right? Like we just talked about 3 or 4 approaches that, get us from this kind of one-to-one dialogue on Zoom right the way up to kind of a larger production. So you don't necessarily have to jump straight into it. And if you're new to video and you're speaking to an agency and they're encouraging you to jump straight in, then that's potentially a bit of a red flag.
Yeah, and just to touch on that value, that high production value sort of aspect as well, John. I mean, what how does it relate to people's brand? Are they damaging their brand by just firing up their smartphone, for example, and just speaking to video as they're walking down the street? When it comes to lighting, when it comes to audio, what are some of the considerations there? I guess, what are some of the merits of either approach there?
Yeah, so a term we use quite a lot is like fast and slow content. So fast content will be topical, will be on a feed for couple of days and then it will disappear. So that sort of fast content often is reactive as well to things that are happening within the industry. Often things pop into your brain maybe and you want to record it quickly. Smartphones these days, really high quality, relative. If you wanted to kind of take it a level up from that, there's stuff you can get a Rode mic or a clip-on mic really quickly. I'm sure you're having this conversation. There's a ring light the other side of this camera to make this setup that you've got look better. You can do things really relatively cheaply, and that sort of is fast content that disappears, and then it can be low production value. You don't need to, as long as it's people can see and hear you, and the picture is clean and nicely framed and all of those kind of basic like checks are done, then that's content you want to kind of produce as quickly and as cheaply as possible. Then you've got your kind of slower, kind of evergreen content. That might be content that is, a deeper thought leadership piece, is possibly kind of, maybe it's a brand video or something like that. But that's when you kind of want to start to bring in the agencies, smaller budgets, videographers, professional kind of crew to film it. Just having those kind of those things in your head is like, where's this going to be used? Who's going to see it? How long are we going to use it for? If you kind of stack all these answers and it's, you're building this kind of like business case for the actual piece of content that sort of says, actually, this is quite an important piece of content for us. You can then kind of like fine tune your budget and you can sort of fine tune the approach to the answers to those questions.
Nice. And but just reflecting on that, John, I recognise that actually the tech, the equipment, isn't going to be the barrier for a lot of people. It's going to be their own kind of enthusiasm for being on video in the first place. So if someone is nervous about putting themselves out there on camera, what are your best tips for getting comfortable with that, still sounding natural, coming across as authentic?
Yeah, so I think the good thing about video today is that there's plenty of help out there. You know, there's plenty of help online. So go on YouTube, find a piece of video content. I'm sure there will be kind of people on there, coaches talking about tips for being natural on camera. There's stuff you can watch. That's obviously the kind of free way of doing it. Going online, finding some help, finding some YouTube things, working kind of through it on your own. Then I think beyond that, then you can look at, there's a lot of like coaches you can talk to. There's a lot of people that do workshops that you can talk to in terms of like building your own confidence. Again, there'll be levels to that. So you'll probably be able to find Zoom webinars of content creators who run workshops if you're feeling kind of nervous. So, and then, right up to kind of engaging with an agency or, having somebody come in and do actually properly coaching for you. But yeah, like we just talked about, there's always levels to it depending on your budget. So, you will be able to go online, you will be able to go on YouTube and get some coaching tips for things to say, how you write content, recording it, being comfortable on screen, and just practice. Practice makes perfect. I think if you look at a lot of the content creators online, and they'll always say go back to your first video, and they'll always look at their first video and go, oh God, that's cringe looking at it now. But it takes time, it takes practice. But also starting, I think a good tip is also to sort of know where your strengths are. So I've never really done any public speaking. Like obviously having been on video shoots for 15 years, I've sat in a set quite a few times. I've been on kind of camera coaching people how to do it. So when we started recording their own content, for me, getting a crew in, having all the lights there, having an auto cue and delivering content like that was right in my wheelhouse of what I wanted to do. So try and tailor the video content to what you're good at. If you do public speaking and you pitch a lot, you'll probably be quite good at picking up a phone and just freestyling and recording the content. If you're a bit more methodical, a bit shyer, then there's auto cues are a massive safety net you can use, and there's plenty of resources online, and there's plenty of people you can get help from.
That's good advice. Stay in your wheelhouse and speak to your expertise, and that's really what consultancies need to do is to share that expertise and come across as that thought leader. So,
Yeah.
so long as you stay, talking about what you know about, that's going
Yeah.
to come across in spades with credibility and high authority.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. This format as well, what you're doing here is great. This is video content, right? Like
yeah,
it's, an interview, it's two people having a conversation. But again, if that's what you enjoy doing and you like to interview people, setting up a video series where you get experts on and talk about industry and talk about topics, that's great. Like if you don't want to necessarily just look down the lens and do a monologue about thought leadership content, this is a great place to start as well. I remember another founder talking about public speaking. This is a bit of a deviant from video, but he started doing hosting panels and found that was a very easy way to get into that kind of next step. So
yeah.
always, there are always kind of levels to it. You don't necessarily always have to jump right into, okay, today I'm going to shoot a month's worth of content on my phone. Just try and start small
And
and
I
build
feel
them.
like I need to throw a call to action in there as well at this point, John, to say that anybody who's just listening to this as a podcast, then come and find us on YouTube because this is in video format as well.
Absolutely.
Just lastly, I want to just sort of wrap up that part by asking what's next for you, John, at Honest Video, at Explainer. Where do you see the biggest opportunities in the next few years as video evolves?
Yeah, so I think this word consistency has come up multiple times, and I think for us that's something that we are pushing with Honest. We work with we work with enterprise teams. So we do work with large organizations where we're working with not just marketers, we're working across the organization and trying to kind of get in with more of those organizations and build systems for making content consistently is a real sort of next challenge for us. I'd like to, if fast forward 12 months, I'd like to be talking about multiple clients that we work with now adopting that model, new clients adopting that model. We're seeing clients wanting to shift more towards isolated video strategies. So, for example, what might happen with a piece of video content is you might do it it might be like a one-off video and then you put it across multiple social channels like we talked on earlier, and with that you're not really committing to a platform, you're not really building an audience. So what we're trying to push customers to do more is commit to formats. So commit to kind of more branded, more themed content. Run that for 6 to 9 months, and then see how we go, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel every time, I think is what a lot of organizations do. So yeah, we're trying to sort of build a lot more consistency with Honest, build more longer term content programs with our clients. And then with Explainer, we're really just starting that sort of first phase of growth. So it's been about 18 months of tweaking the positioning and pricing models and trying to refine our offer and figure out where we fit in the market. So yeah, we're kind of really just literally like the next couple of months, like starting to market that business. So yeah, just hoping just for that initial phase of kind of consistent growth where we can look at our marketing on a spreadsheet for the first time in 2 years and say, okay, this is the content we're putting out, this is where we're putting our ad spend, and this is the return we're getting, and trying to kind of have, with Honest, it's more about building people and relationships and authority within the industry, whereas Explainer is more about, okay, how can we grow a business using paid marketing channels and content.
Yeah, more productized approach.
Exactly that.
Great. John, we wrap up with our usual feature, Snog, Marry, Avoid. Let's kick off with a snog, which is a quick win in consultancies. What would you advocate people can do today to get more from video, perhaps?
So just get started, I think would be my advice, is just if you're thinking about video, don't overthink it. Either ask for help from YouTube, from the resources that are out there, or for agencies within your network, but just start, just try to start posting, start on day one, and just it's all about momentum, and it's all about cadence and consistency, and that starts with video one. So just take the
Do
leap.
it. Great. A marry is a long-term keeper. What do you think that people should be embedding in their business today?
Yeah, so a consistent filming retainer or program of content is something that I feel like is the way that the industry is going. So looking at whatever you want to do with video, but seeing it as a system where we're going to commit to X amount of filming days per month, per quarter, whatever that cadence you decide, but building a system for video and keep sticking to it.
Fantastic. And lastly, avoid what's a big sort of mistake, an outdated approach, something that's not serving businesses that you would get rid of straight away.
Yeah, so I think AI hasn't ridiculously come up on this conversation yet, but I would just avoid kind of generative AI for now. I think if you look at the platforms, the algorithms, what they're responding to, and it's all people first, authentic content. It's people engaging with your posts, it's your team sharing your posts, it's your team making video content. And at the moment, the AI generated content is not winning in terms of consistency. So there are definitely AI tools you can use in production to do more faster and do more with less. But in terms of avoiding the generative stuff for now. I think that's a safe bet if you want to kind of see good results and see them with any consistency.
Great stuff. We'll see how that advice ages over time. But John, thanks so much for being with us today. Listen, how can people find you?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is Honest John. We're honest.video and explainer.video, as you mentioned earlier, explainer with no vowels. So
Yeah. You don't have to, I won't ask you to spell it out, but they'll find you, no doubt. John, thanks so much for being with us today on the Consultancy Edge.
nice one, Matt. It's a pleasure.